All righty. Hey, everybody. My name is Chris Fitzgerald. I'm the general manager at Prep Dig, and we are getting into some Zoom video calls here, which I'm sure if you're watching, you've had some sort of video component to your high school classes or college classes, and coaches, you're probably reaching out to some of your athletes via Zoom or Google Meet or whatever way you're communicating during this time. And right now, I have Sarah Long, Kathleen Bishop, and Christine Jurgens, who are all part of the M1 18s team. And a little bit about their story is that they're going to some pretty high academic schools across the country, with Sarah heading to Emory in Atlanta, Kathleen heading to Princeton, and Christine heading to the University of Chicago. So we're just going to kind of talk about the process of what that looks like to head to some of these schools, what the application process is, what the volleyball aspect of it is, and hopefully, through if you're watching this, your academic and volleyball recruiting aspirations and finding that, school that's the perfect fit, and then these athletes can help you out. So let's just start with you, Sarah, if you want to talk a little bit about what high school you go to, as well as your plans for next year, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Yeah, so my name's Sarah. I go to Benilde St. Margaret's in St. Louis Park, and next year, as Chris said, I'll be going to Emory University in Atlanta. And I'm not exactly sure what I want to study right now, but I think I want to major in math and possibly go pre-med, so we'll see.
Good. Go ahead, Kathleen.
Awesome. I'm Kathleen Bishop. I go to St. Paul Academy, and next year I'll be going to Princeton University in Princeton, New Jersey. And I'm going to be studying engineering. I'm still not sure the specific field within engineering that I'm going to be looking at, so I'm hoping some intro courses will kind of lead me to one more specific field, but I'm excited to see.
Good.
And my name is Christine Jurgens. I go to Egan High School, and next year I'll be attending the University of Chicago, where so I'm not quite sure about my major yet, but the two that I'm kind of deciding between, I know they're worlds apart. One would be economic and data science, which is more the math and computer science route of economics, and the other major that I'm deciding between is molecular engineering. So we'll see where it takes me, I guess.
That's good. So I used to be a sixth grade teacher, and I was always super into science and girls in STEM and all that. So it's just really exciting to see, you guys head that way, and it'll be great. So if you guys want just to kind of talk about how you first kind of started going down that path, as far as when you want to play college volleyball, there's hundreds of schools that you can go after, but what kind of drew you towards maybe a higher academic route?
Well, academics was always a top priority for me, and so I always wanted to be able to go to a school where I can play for a competitive volleyball program, but also go down my desired course of study, and being able to do my intended major. I know some schools it's not always super balanced, with some schools if the volleyball may be more competitive, and so you have to spend more time doing that, and you can't necessarily study what you want. So I knew that academics was number one for me.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Kathleen.
Yeah, me too. And I think definitely volleyball is just a passion and joy of mine, and I wanted to be able to play it, but I was definitely going to look at more the academic side of colleges first, and then see how that was going to fit in with volleyball. And my parents and sometimes at my school would talk about use your athletics to get you the best education that you can. And my brother kind of looked at that too, and it worked out for him, and I was hoping I was going to be able to do the same. So it was definitely the balance that CJ talked about, and trying to get to a high academic school.
Yeah, for me, when I was a sophomore and freshman, I didn't even know for sure if I wanted to play volleyball in college, just because I knew I wanted to go to a high academic school, but I didn't want to go play volleyball somewhere just because that's where I could play volleyball, not necessarily for the academics. So I guess like once I started reaching out to like schools that I was interested in, not just for the volleyball program, but like for the academics, and started talking to them, then I like really made me excited about it. And then I can't like imagine not playing volleyball in college now.
Oh, that's great. So with that, like, what is kind of your like, what is maybe different about that recruiting process? Like, how did you like? Was it you reaching out to teams? Was it teams reaching out to you? Like, what did you kind of do to find that good fit where you're ultimately heading next year? That provided you a good balance of volleyball and academics together. So, Kathleen, we'll start with you.
I had a kind of a unique recruiting process, I'd say. So I started club volleyball my 17th year. So before that, I hadn't really thought about playing volleyball in college. So that's kind of why I went into club volleyball, was to see if that was going to be a possibility for me. So in my 17th year, I like reached out to schools kind of just to let them know that I played volleyball and kind of who I was and what I was about and what I was trying to look for. So I did some research on schools to see what might interest me. And I was able to send out video, which was probably the most important thing for me, just so they could see me play and like know what I was about, because I hadn't played club before. So that was just important to kind of gauge their interest in me and just to see if they even had spots available still. And then once I got into contact with Princeton, I was super excited. They were kind of asking for more video to see what I was like, and then they were able to see me in Indy, which was really exciting. And I think just like, obviously I knew the name before, so I was able to do more research, like specifically with engineering and their volleyball program, and everything just seemed to line up. But it was once I visited campus that like I felt like everything fell into place, because it's like the community and the people you're going to be with are like hugely important to like your college experience. So once I got there and met the coaching staff and the teammates in person, it was like really exciting. So I think that was important for me too.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I didn't know if I wanted to play volleyball all along, but like I just, when I was like a sophomore, I knew that I needed to like start thinking about it or doing something about it, just so that like if I did decide I wanted to play, I didn't want to get to the point like my junior year or senior year where I hadn't done anything for the last 2 years and now I want to play volleyball. So I kind of just like started by casting like a pretty wide net. Like I sent my video out to like 25 schools, just like random. I mean, they weren't completely random. I shouldn't say that, but I guess they were just like high academic schools that I heard of, but I hadn't really like researched that much and I didn't know that much about. But then over the summer before junior year, I think I like really started researching the schools and kind of narrowing down the ones that I actually like wanted to go visit and try to like really pursue, like set up phone calls and keep emailing them and talking to coaches more. So then like in the fall of junior year, I started going on like visits to places, and that's like Kathleen said, that's like really what helped me decide if I liked or didn't like a place. Like some schools I really liked going into, and then I'd visit and I was like, I hate this. But other schools it was like the exact opposite. So yeah, visiting was definitely a big deal for me. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Christine?
So I started the process when I was 15. I kind of changed my path recruiting, because I used to be a setter hitter, and then I just switched to hitting. So then after 16's year, my school, like the schools that I was keeping in contact, kind of shifted, and that's where I became more high academic minded instead of volleyball competitive. So I ended up turning some schools down that maybe had more of a stronger volleyball program, but didn't necessarily have the academic needs or my academic needs, I guess. So, and then I went on various camps to schools, Ivy League and UAA, and the camps really helped me understand what the environment was like there with the coaches, players. Those really helped, and then going on some official visits definitely really helped. So yeah, I would say get on campus as much as you can, because
Yeah, it'll just be nice for kids to get on campus in general now,
Yeah.
be able to see what they actually want to. The virtual tours only do so much. So
Exactly.
I know going through the, like, not just the recruiting process, but even the admissions process to some of these schools, I know it's a little different. Like it's a lot more than just like fill out an application and just hope that you get in. So what's maybe a little bit different with that, or what did you have to do to like actually apply to get into these schools? Because I know it's a little bit, whether it's an interview, whether it's, you know, some type of recommendation or essay. So what are maybe some things that people should be prepared for when applying to some of these schools?
Yeah, so for me, I was able to talk to the coaches and everything. I feel like normal to any other school leading up to it. And then once they saw me play and they felt like I was a good fit for their program, the coaches like offered me a position on the team contingent on me getting accepted into the university on an academic standpoint. So I went through that like application process just like anyone else. I was able to send in like my application a little bit early, and they could take an early early look at it and see how it was gonna kind of compare to others. Just because before you actually send it in, you kind of want to get a gauge of like if you're going to get accepted or not on your academics, because it's probably going to be the only school you're going to apply to. So that was kind of like a nice safety net when they said like, yeah, you're good to apply, like everything looks about right. And then I was also able to get like my financial aid. They were able to get an early look at that too, so we were able to see how everything was gonna like look before applying. But then once I did apply, it was like the same application that everyone else does. They had like the same supplements for Princeton, the Common App, and then I had an interview with a Princeton alum. And then you get for athletes, you can get a likely letter. And I got my likely letter like I think maybe a month before getting my like official acceptance. And that they kind of want to keep it, it's like kind of a low key, just making sure like, yep, you're good just as long as you kind of keep doing what you're doing, and then eventually you're going to get your official acceptance. So I got a phone call from their admissions office, and that was really exciting. But it was definitely kind of a unique process just because you're definitely not guaranteed a spot until you get your official letter. So it was kind of a waiting game until then, but it was exciting when it did happen.
But when did that kind of occur for you to get your likely letter and your acceptance?
Yeah, so I guess in the summer, I got kind of the okay from the coaches as in like there was a spot on the team for me. That was probably midsummer, and I went to the camp, and that's kind of when I decided I wanted to pursue it more. So that's when we kind of looked into financial aid and what my application might look like. And then I did early action, so I submitted it really early, senior year. I think I got my likely letter, I'm trying to remember exactly when, probably November, because before then I didn't tell anyone because I obviously hadn't gotten in yet, so I didn't want to tell anyone where I was going. So I'm pretty sure it was like October, I didn't know yet. So I think around November I got it.
Very cool. Sarah, Christine, anything else as far as like your application process or just to get into the school?
I think
Yeah.
Kathleen pretty much covered it. Yeah, I was pretty late to the application process because I was deciding narrowing down between two schools the last week before early decision, and early decision is due like November 1st. So yeah, I went through academic reads for both of those schools, and yeah, I think Kathleen pretty much covered it, but the application process was pretty much the same. Yeah.
I think generally speaking, just like the high academic schools, for the most part, like the recruiting process is like a little more delayed than a lot of the big schools. And like that can be kind of like nerve wracking for some people because they think that like all these people are committing, like I need to commit, you know? But I think with the high academic schools, like, I mean, they obviously need you to have like the academic standards that the university has. And while like volleyball, like at least at Emory, volleyball can help you a little bit, it like you need to have good grades, you need to have good test scores. So I mean, for me it was kind of similar to Kathleen, but I got my likely letter in July, I think, and then I applied early decision. So I found out in December. But yeah, one thing that I did was like when I started taking the ACT pretty early. So then when I first started like reaching out to coaches of these high academic places, I could like tell them what my ACT score was. And I don't know, I mean, looking back, I don't know if that made a difference in like them responding to me or like wanting to get to know me, but at least it gives them some sort of like reassurance that it could be a potential fit if they think that as a player I could fit well in their program.
And now, just so I have the like, do you have to take your SAT for some of these schools, or are they okay with just an ACT?
Yeah, they're okay with both, I've heard now.
Yeah, pretty much everyone's okay with both. I only took the ACT.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All those questions. It's just like, I always heard like, well, if you're going to the coast, you want to take the SAT, but no, it's good that you don't have to be a master of one, I guess.
Yes. Yeah.
Are there any other like, I don't know if it's like a misconception or, was there anything that was like maybe different as far as like you really finding that fit? Whether it's like the financial aid or whether it's like the balance of the programs, like how did you navigate that, like with the coaches, and talking to the players that are actually a part of the program? Like what were some of those questions that you asked the coaches and that you asked your now future teammates that really helped you understand, like, is this going to be a good place for me?
Well, I know for sure with any high academic school, I think that a lot of athletes are concerned about like how are they going to be able to balance the rigorous academics with volleyball, because and at UChicago especially, it's actually known as like where fun goes to die. So I was a little scared because they're really known for just having an intense course load and stuff like that. So going into being recruited by them, that was like my main like drawback with that school. But once I like visited and was on campus and was with the team and the coaches, I was reassured because they have a really good community there. The teammates always are very helpful with one another. And they said like you have to be prepared to work hard, but it's still a fun experience. Like I think especially being on a team, it just makes your college experience a lot. It enhances your college experience. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. Hey,
questions,
Sarah and Kathleen, or anything else?
I don't know if this is like necessarily a misconception, but I think there's kind of like two ends of the spectrum. Like there's the schools that are like completely volleyball, like you might not even be able to major in what you want to major in, and like volleyball takes precedence. Or there's the schools that are like completely academic, and I mean volleyball is like it's a hobby, but it's not really like something you care that much about. So I guess like for the people that want to play like a high academic or play on like a high academic schools team, I think it's just like about finding the middle. And so like when you ask the questions, like kind of like what Christine said, like how do you balance it, or like what's your schedule like, or I would ask like how does your practice fit with your class schedule or stuff like that.
Yeah, I did something similar too, and something I like specifically at Princeton is there's like a specific block of time where all sports practices happen. So like you're not going to have any conflict with like your coursework or anything like that. So similar questions with CJ and Sarah. And yeah, I think it was just important for me to get, when I did go on my visits, like to get a good sense of like the school and like going to a class or like seeing what their facilities were like, getting like a true sense. Like I would go to a camp, and then I wanted to like try to stay a day or fit in a time where I could see some of the more academic side. So it was important for me to get a sense of both.
Oh, that's awesome. I guess closing this out here, final question, like what would be maybe a piece of advice or a tidbit, if somebody's a sophomore right now or a junior trying to navigate like this whole process, like they probably are looking at some schools, but what's maybe a piece of advice that you would give them, while they're trying to make that decision and find their future home?
I know, well, especially if you're starting this process early, I would say going back to standardized testing, to get a score like right away, start working on getting the best score you can and keep taking it, because I kept improving after every one I took. So, well, at least I guess everyone's different, but yeah, and because I remember when I was 15 and I went on a visit to some Ivy League schools, they were surprised that I haven't even taken it yet. And I thought I was pretty young at 15, like what, but yeah, so I would say for sure, just like start preparing for that.
Yeah, I would probably say I was kind of like on the opposite of CJ, but it's similar. I understand kind of like getting that all done early. And that's kind of what I would say is just like stay organized with everything that you're doing and like be proactive in the way that you're reaching out to coaches. Because it seems like really common between the three of us that like we did a lot of work on kind of like the front end of like getting to know coaches, like reaching out to schools, doing some research. So something important for me was like responding quickly to coaches because it shows like your interest and you like are able to build that relationship with them, and it kind of like pushes your recruiting process forward, which I think was important. But then also I would just say like it's okay to be patient. Like for me, it took like I was kind of way on the far end and I got something that I'm really excited about, and I wouldn't want it to have like worked any other way. And it was on the later end. So like every school is going to have a different timeline, and hopefully like the school you're looking at, maybe they're on the same timeline you are. So it's okay to be patient and wait for that to happen.
I agree with all that. I also like really agree with Kathleen's point about like taking your recruiting process into your own hands. Like take responsibility for it, because like in the end, it's you that's gonna have to deal with it if you don't do anything about it. So, I mean, like stay organized and do it. Like don't have your parents send your email. Like send it yourself, or like you set up the time to talk with the coaches and like really like push yourself. Like it might be uncomfortable. Like I know phone calls are like not my favorite thing to do because it's just like made me nervous, but like it's like at the end of the day it's like for your own good. So just really like take responsibility for it, and like Kathleen said, just be patient with it. It can be like really annoying and it can be a lot of work, but in the end like it's all worth it if you like when you find a place that you're really happy about and you it seems like it checks all the boxes. It's like really exciting, so it's worth it.
Well, hey, congratulations for all the things that all three of you have accomplished. I mean, not only are you some of the top students in the state, but I mean, I've really enjoyed watching all three of you play volleyball the past couple of years, and to have the combination of the two, I just think, says a lot. I mean, you're great role models for the athletes in your clubs, the kids at your high school, from an academic and athletic standpoint. And I'm really excited to hopefully see you sometime on the court before you head off to school. And for sure, I have a few more teams that I'll be keeping track of next year. So thanks again with everything. And I know a lot of people can really benefit from hearing from three very high academic and athletic, people who are, also doing a lot of good for their community. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much.